Hello everyone and welcome to Flawless, a music podcast. My name is George and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Liam.
Hello everybody.
And Grant.
Hello there, music fans.
Love it when you say that. Each episode, one of the hosts or guests nominates an album that they think is flawless, and we talk about why they love it and what they love about it, and at the end we decide if we agree that it is flawless. We have a Facebook group. It's called Flawless Friends and Family. We'd love for you to join. Tell us what you think about your favourite albums and favourite episodes of Flawless. You can find us at facebook.com/groups/Flawless Friends and Family. Whew, but it's going to be in the show notes, so don't worry about that. Just click.
We haven't been blocked in Australia because we are not Muse. So thankfully everyone in Australia can still access it. And yeah.
Which will be possibly a redundant comment in 6 months' time when you get round to listening to this episode.
That's true.
But we also have a Patreon. You can back us from as little as $1 a month. And no matter how much you back us for, you'll get access to our special bonus episodes and maybe pictures and videos and other exciting things.
Oh, yes.
So you can find us at patreon.com/flawlessamp. So on this episode, it is the ultimate trio of Grant, Liam and I, the OG of Flawless.
No guests.
Because I'm doing the intro today, that means that it is my turn to bring an album I believe is flawless to the crew.
Mm-hmm.
That album being...
We Are the Crew.
We are the crew and we wait with bated breath.
Well, you're not waiting because you've had to research this for some time. But
our listeners.
And
This is always the fun thing because the name of the episode is literally the name of the album. So we do it like it's a surprise to people, but it's literally not a surprise to anybody.
So because
George,
you've clicked on
I
this,
love the tone, so let's do this. Keep the surprise tone.
Yeah, so as you have clicked on this because you know what the album is already, I'm going to drop the mic and say this is the debut album by stadium band Muse with their album Showbiz from 1999.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So there we go.
There you go.
It had 3 release dates that I know of. So
did.
it came out in France first.
Yeah,
Weird.
That's very weird.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the 7th it came out in France. And then it went out in the US on the 28th of September. But then it waited for the 4th of October for the UK. So I don't know why. So if Matt Bellamy could get in touch, that would be great.
They do love France. So their first live album is from a show they played in France. So maybe they've always loved
Maybe
the French people in general.
Maybe they're like, you deserve
Vive la
this.
France.
Vive la France.
You deserve this, bitches.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fair enough. So it was reached number 28 in the Australian chart and 29 in the UK chart.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, gold in Australia.
Gold in Australia.
And platinum in the UK. So there we go. So the important question are, Liam,
Yes.
have you heard of Muse and or the album Showbiz?
I have heard of Muse and I have heard of the album Showbiz, and this is not my episode, which means I can't tell the full in-depth detail of how much I've heard of this album. So I'm just going to try and keep it very short. I heard this album when it came out. Muscle Museum was on Triple J. I was like, holy shit, these guys are awesome. Grabbed the album, loved the album, loved the album. Got all the singles. So I have all...
All 5 of them?
No, I have 4 out of the 5 singles. I couldn't get But I have
Which is
4
the first
out of the
one?
5.
Yeah,
I thought it was the first
No,
one.
yes. That's the first one. So I have 4 of the 5 singles. I have all the B-sides. They put them on a B-sides compilation, so I have that. I have the live album, the B-sides albums, the rarity compilations, the acoustic versions of most of the songs on this album. I have the Muse EP from 1998 with Cave on it from before this album came out.
And the Muscle Museum EP as well?
You're speaking a little fast.
I have the random 1 to 8 EP from 2000, which they put out of the B-sides from this album only in Japan.
So
I kind of got obsessed with this album and Muse for their first 3 albums.
Wow. Eh?
I was all in on Muse for reasons
And forgive me, we are for the listeners. We're recording at Liam's house.
Mm-hmm.
Further to that, there is some supporting documentation.
There is a Muse poster out. A friend of mine, Sarah from Faster Louder, back when I was editing and writing Faster Louder, she got me that as a Christmas present from when they were unknown and they played the Hi-Fi Bar down in Melbourne, and it's like a purple poster of the 3 of them.
Framed.
Well, I framed. She didn't give it to me framed. I framed it.
Yeah, sure.
nice. So do you want to take over the episode?
I kind of do. One other thing before we get to Grant is my dog is named Bella, and her name is that because it's short for Bellamy.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I've been holding on to that since you nominated the album. I was like, should I tell you? No, I won't tell you. I'll wait until it. Yeah.
Oh my god!
So when we were going to
Bella is not a young puppy.
No.
So literally, you named her in your Muse haze.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
So 12 years ago when we got her, we were thinking about getting a dog, and if we decided if it was a girl, it would be Bella for Bellamy, and if it was a boy, it would be Dempsey for Paul Dempsey. And we got a girl dog, and so it became Bella. And Michelle likes Muse as well, my wife. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is where I'm like, maybe I should take a step back and leave it to Liam. But I feel like his deep dive into this album might be more than mine. So there we go. Grant, you'd heard of Muse, right?
I had heard of Muse.
And had you listened to this album or any of their albums?
No, so I've got in full declaration, and it's oftentimes disappointing amongst, I feel, you two when it's received. I got a hard drive in the old days of MP3s and and there was Muse music on there, and that was literally. Did I listen to an album end to end? No. Was it on this, smorgasbord of MP3s in the old days when music was hard to come by?
Nice.
That was it. And I probably skipped through it, but might have even be able to find that tech somewhere which has the original piece. Mm-hmm. But in terms of sitting down, listening to it end to end, no, never heard of them. It was literally just on an MP3 player. So Muse, yes, sure.
Is that how you'd heard of them?
Yeah.
Have you heard of them from being on the radio or in the world?
Nothing.
Oh my goodness.
So it's just from
But I'm going from, if you go, so I suppose the journey would have been 1999. So third year university, probably, was drinking too much, 2000. And then I was back at home in East London and not really going out that much. So I wouldn't been exposed to it. And there was probably one channel in South Africa that would have played this sort of music after 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And I rise early. Yeah. So I'm sleeping really, way before 10.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't have been able to name a song before. So.
That's I know I'm a big fan and all, but they're giant stadium rock world beaters now. I'm surprised that you haven't just from osmosis heard of
probably
them beat around.
But no, never wouldn't have been able to name a song before. So.
Completely fresh.
Thank you.
Liam,
fresh.
how did you find out about Muse in the first place?
So Muscle Museum was on Triple J.
You said. Yeah.
And then I think Sunburn One as well. Yeah. So because I always assumed Muscle Museum was the first single.
Sure.
And it wasn't until that when I was listening to the album, I did a bit more deep dive and found out that other people had done lots of stuff.
And you're a music hoarder when you like a thing.
I do. In those days, I was definitely a deep dive. I'll get
bit of obsessive.
Every single thing that band puts out, I'm going to track down and have a listen to and see if I like it.
Nice.
Wow.
George.
Hello.
How had you heard of Muse?
So,
being
Muse,
English and all.
I'm English, so that's how I heard of Muse. No, so it was pretty awesome. There was a sampler CD that, used to write off record labels and all that kind of thing. And that my friend had got. And I think it was Uno was on there. Mm-hmm. And he was like, listen to this. And it was way before the album came out.
Yeah.
And it was before the singles had come out. So we were like, oh yeah, we'll have a listen. We're like, this is cool. These guys are going to go places. They're amongst all these other bands that we like at the time and all that kind of stuff.
So you were almost a teenager at this stage.
So I was...
Just for the...
Yeah, I was.
Rub it in.
I was 14 when it came out, and I was obsessed with music media, and obsessed with anything with the CD on the front and all that kind of stuff. So
what were some of the magazines that you're talking to? Because I can see them, but
So it's-
So I used to get like NME, and I used to get Select and Metal Hammer and Kerrang and
Kerrang, yeah, okay.
yeah, but like just a whole bunch. And I used to get all of them. Like I was obsessed.
And a free disc.
And
And
they
it's
used to,
like,
a free disc
whoa,
was amazing.
plus,
Absolutely.
Plus
And then,
music
but then I
notes.
used to also get the music samplers. But me and my friendship groups of like looking back of absolute hipsters, we all signed up to be on different mailing lists so that we would share our CDs and then CDR them for each other. So that we would have all the stuff.
Wow.
So on
Muse were basically tailor-made to be at the front of a street press music magazine.
Yeah.
Like just like three guys, quirky, slightly goth style, you know, weren't afraid to get dressed up in different sort of sets of clothes, that sort of stuff. They were, and then played super heavy, all boys, so that was lucky. Guitar, super guitar-led rock, like it was just,
they're all white too.
all white, like it's just,
They're ready, but the thing is, so we had this like sampler CD, but
Uno.
and I think it was Uno that was on it. So we were going to Reading Festival, which is really fucking huge back in the UK, and headlining were Blur, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Manson, Offspring, Silverchair, things like that, right? So at the time, and we saw that Muse were playing in a random tent at about 2:00 in the afternoon. Do you know at the bottom of the poster when it says other acts include, and it doesn't even tell you where they're playing or anything, blah, blah, blah. So it's not until you get your pass. And we saw that they were playing at like 2:00 in this random tent, and we got in there and it was like half full and we were ready for them. And then they came out and they're wearing these weird like boob tube type things with neon fishnet long sleeve crop tops over the top and like I think white skinny jeans or whatever, and there's synthesizers and guitars and the bass and thing, and we're like, what is about to happen? And it's like the afternoon, but they play like they're already in a stadium. That's just how they sound, and it was one of the most influential moments of live music that I've ever had.
Yes.
Because they started and they played I didn't write down the set list. It was just epic. But I think they started with Uno, but they actually played Sunburn live, which is the opening track for this album. And I was there like, what the fuck are you doing? You just had a guitar and now you're playing like concert piano and singing like a choir boy and then growling like a angry boy. Like it was very confusing. But it was awesome. So that was really influential. But for the whole 3-day festival, I couldn't tell you what any of the acts looked like or sounded like. I imagine they were good, but Muse just totally stood out. So the day the album came out, I was like, you're mine.
So this was you went and saw them, you found them and saw them before the album came out?
Before the album came out, yeah.
Nice.
So at that point...
you'd heard Uno. So
you heard Uno.
At the point, only Uno had come out as a single.
Yeah.
And we'd got the sampler. So it was like we went on a hunch, just went to go and see them.
What a series of fortunate events.
I know, right? So we went to go and see them and they just blew us away. And then the album came out, they blew up. They became like the darlings. Like, well, they had mixed results initially because some people wrote them off as like another Radiohead. Weirdly, which I never understood.
I've understood it for sure. With my virgin ears, and that's what they were.
Because that's
Thumb York for sure.
So
you can hear it.
Not
badly.
I heard the same thing. It was I heard lots of people saying they were the new Radio, or they're too close to Radiohead.
Yeah, it's
and
bullshit.
I get the falsetto vocals, but everything about when I was listening to it, I was like, I don't think they are Radiohead, but I didn't have the language to figure out why not. And then as I've done more research and done more music stuff, I've figured out it's everything about Muse as a performance. Like everything is just so carefully crafted in a way that Radiohead kind of isn't. It's just like, it's guitar led and falsetto, but after that, the purpose of what you're trying to do and the way they go about it. And I mean, after this album, that was the things like at the start, it was like, they sound like Radiohead. And then Radiohead went one way and Muse went completely the other way. And suddenly you couldn't pretend they were even remotely similar anymore. But those first things, I was like you, George, I was frustrated by it. It's not it's just, yeah.
I totally have they only played 8 tracks on that set. Mm-hmm. They, like, when they played live, they only had time to play 8 tracks. Uno, Cave, Sunburn, Escape, Agitated, Unintended, Muscle Museum, Showbiz. That was their set list on that. And then they had to just disappear into the afternoon
Ether.
crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Like it never happened.
Then we all went and watched Blur.
Country house.
So weird. So
Google
yeah. So okay.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
Oh, please
So
do.
the album had come out and they got announced for Livid, and they were all the way down at the bottom as like a, you know, these guys from England, you've probably heard that one song on the radio, but you're not really that obsessed with them. But I was obsessed with them. So I went and saw them play, and it was exactly the same thing. It was a backstage. Nobody knew who they were. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon. The festival had barely started. There was nobody there. And they played like a short 8-song set, but they played like they were going to be superstars. And they were just so professional and so awesome on their instruments. So they did Sunburn, Uno, Cave, Agitated, Muscle Museum, Philip, Microcuts, and Showbiz.
Really similar. Really
Yes.
similar lineup.
I knew Agitated was so Agitated is a B-side. It's not on any of their albums, but it's always been like a fan favorite. And I didn't realize, because I didn't remember that much of that set. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I do remember is Sunburn. He played the opening piano melody on his guitar instead of on a piano.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
And it is freaking crazy. And so I was like, am I misremembering that when I was doing the
Yeah.
research? So I went and looked at YouTube videos. Like, no, there are videos out there. If you YouTube Sunburn with a guitar intro, you see him just playing the guitar part. And it's like, it's freaky when it's a piano intro.
Sure.
But when it's played on guitar, it's just like, holy hell. And the thing is, he must have had a piano there. There's no way they could have played a set with no piano.
Yeah,
I was thinking
right.
like maybe they just didn't bring a piano to Australia, but they could have got one here. But
Easy.
maybe that was just like,
Yeah.
no, look at this shit that I can do. And it's the first song on the set, and it's just, yeah. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, I had the exact same experience just
Look
in
at
Australia.
you guys seeking out
Yeah.
these virtual unknowns at the
To
time.
me, they didn't sound like anything else at the time.
And
like all these comparisons to other people, it didn't make sense to me. Like when I got the album and I listened, or when I saw them and I heard Sunburn, I was like, no, you can't compare this like concert piano. You can't compare that to this guitar-driven rock that I'm listening to in other things. But yeah, I can see some of the fact that he has vocal range that you would bring out with Tom York and all that kind of stuff. But no, we went to see them because they were different, and then they were.
And nobody sounded like them in Australia. So Australia was like in that Grinspoon, Kate, UMI, living in the height of like the old underground rock stuff started becoming big and getting well known. Mm-hmm. But that was like, it's effectively like pub indie rock. Like it's the next step up from that. And nobody sounded like Muse. So it was just, awesome.
So Grant, listening to an actual album end to end, what was that experience like for you? Because
it was really good. I mean, it's. I think, and maybe it's an element of when I first heard it, I was like, he does sound a little bit like Tom York, but it is just a falsetto. I think it's a range, and I wouldn't discount that. Mm-hmm. And then you research into it, and it didn't score. I was intrigued that it didn't score as highly as what I would have thought it would. And I'm going, it's a debut album. I'm like, wow, debut album. Where are these guys from? Like, what were they in previous bands, etc. So, and 5 singles. Mm-hmm. That's quite something.
Well, they got bigger and they were like, shit, we should probably release more. We should probably release another one because and ride this wave.
But they had alternate versions for Japan and for they had singles that it was just, they had lots of stuff. He's super prolific, and it obviously banked up a lot of stuff that he'd written and gotten ready, and they just had it all. So when they blew up, they were like, all right, let's go get it out there.
Yeah.
Talking about range, cool story for the music aficionados out there. Mm-hmm. In Showbiz, his vocal range goes from C sharp 3rd to G sharp 5th, I believe, which is his highest note to date and the largest range that he has on any Muse track, which is just awesome because that's just going. I can
when
do
does he
anything.
do that? Is it like at the end part?
Between when he goes really like, so he goes like super high.
Yeah.
But he also has like the lower register, and there's been a couple of tracks where he does similar ranges, but this one is where but they don't tend to play it live. Right. So I wonder if that's why.
As he's gotten a bit older, maybe he's not quite the jumps, but like I think you can still hit the note, but the jumps between the levels might be a bit tougher.
Yeah, a little harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it shows a lot. And you talked about him playing the guitar, like being able to play the opening like to Sunband on the guitar, and he took, because they'd been bringing out these EPs and stuff like that. At one point, he was getting a bit like tired of it. And he took 4 months out and went and lived in Greece. And he was learning Greek and Spanish guitar as opposed to his like rock guitar.
What else would he be doing?
Right? And then,
Sure.
So when he comes in with Unintended, the slow love song,
and what a song.
That's like that kind of got that real Mediterranean influence for sure.
Yeah.
That he wrote that
Definitely.
as a result of going and living in Greece for 4 months. Like,
Nice.
and then came back and went, I'm ready. And he had some songs and he was like, I'm ready to come back to the band and let's make this album, which is cool.
Have you seen them live since
There you
the
go.
Reading
Good
small
question. I was gonna
backstage?
go to
Core story, no.
Really?
No.
That's it.
Literally, never seen them again.
Right.
Intentionally, because it could never compare to the first time.
Intentionally, never seen them live. Next thing I'm going to say, which is going to upset Liam, is that I've never listened to any of their other albums from start to finish. I've heard singles, heard them all over the place. Like,
Oh my goodness.
and through osmosis, right? He's gone red.
Yeah.
Through osmosis, I've heard them.
And he's shuffling, guys. He's like,
But for
and
me,
easy on his feet.
it was too pure. Seeing them and having that special experience, and then listening to this album, they then blew up, and then they became the stadium rock. Before, they were the underdogs that weren't stadium rock yet, and then they became stadium players. And I'm like, well, I'm not paying for that, because when I saw you, like, I don't know. I know you can put on a good show, and I know like you could probably have pyrotechnics now, and you can afford this, that, and the other.
Yeah, sure.
But it won't ever be the same as being 14 in a festival tent at 2 p.m. And so I've never seen them live, and I've never listened to another album.
God.
I've just listened to the singles
Wow.
on the radio. Yep, I know. I because it was.
But I can appreciate that. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for, where do you go from that point?
and it's not because I don't like them.
Yeah, sure.
It's just because it was just too pure.
just so
because I
awesome.
know that Liam has been like listening to a lot of Muse as a result.
Well, and let's hear what. So Liam,
Like, Liam, you had to do a deep dive of this album.
Yes.
So, was that a tough thing for you to do? Were you looking forward to it?
and what other? I was going to go. How many times have you seen them apart from that
Oh,
time?
yeah. Oh,
That's
that's
well,
a
At
good
least
story.
another 3 or 4 times since then. So so they love touring Australia, and basically for the next 3 or 4 albums, they would tour Australia on every album, and I would go and see them every time because they were amazing. And they grew into the stadium rock band. But you know how sometimes stadium rock bands are just like, we're here, we're popular, so we're just going to put on a show that you could get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's not these guys. So they have evolved their show over time as they've gotten bigger and bigger to be like, no, there's like, so there is pyrotechnics, there's huge fireworks going off. He's thrown himself all over the stage. There's stuff. So now he has like the grand piano on stage, and sometimes he'll literally he'll have the guitar over himself, and he'll be sitting at the piano playing it, stand up and play the guitar.
Oh, nice.
Sit back down to the guitar.
He was doing that
I'm jealous.
on the keyboards.
Yeah.
at
So
Reading.
you watch him at Brisbane Entertainment Centre then when you call stadium, or
No. So the other times I've seen them, I think I saw them at the arena, and then twice at the River Stage.
okay.
So I think when they got to the entertainment centre, that's when, because I couldn't get standing tickets, and I couldn't sit down to watch these guys. So it's
Right.
it's just it's very upsetting that you haven't seen them all.
I know,
Listen to any of
but
the other
Disappointed
albums.
in.
I have seen them like on the TV. Like I've seen like videos of them playing live, and I've seen when you watch Glastonbury at home rather than being at Glastonbury. So I've seen them, so that's why I know they put on a good show. But I just can't be there for that because I know that I won't hear every note in the way that I can hear it when I'm in a big arena. And I know, whereas I felt like I had this really intimate experience.
Sure.
And I couldn't tarnish that intimate experience by having this one, like with sharing it around. Like, it felt like polygamy, and I wasn't on board with that.
okay.
Whereas I felt like I had a monogamous relationship with them at
And
the
they've changed.
first gig, and then they got
That changed.
yeah, they've changed. So, but
So it's
it was,
not you,
but
it's them.
I was really happy for them because, like, I knew that they were way
Going to-
bigger than they were way bigger than the stage they were on,
Yes.
and I knew they were going to be huge.
Knights of Sidonia might be the single greatest live song I've ever seen. It's not on this album. It's like
the
two
song?
albums later.
Nice.
2 albums later. Knights of Sidonia, it's called. It's like an
Okay.
8-minute epic thing. It's just... You must have heard of Knights of
Okay,
Sidonia.
so
Oh, I will do, but I don't know the name. I don't know the names of
it's the
anything.
Queen song. It's their big 8-minute Western. It's got like 3. So now when they play it live, so there's a moshing bit, and then there's a bit where he plays a guitar, and the entire crowd sings the melody of the guitar with him. And then there's like a big build up to like a Queen Bohemian Rhapsody style mosh. So if you ever see videos of it, there's like 50,000 people, and they're all moshing in time to this one moment. It's crazy good.
Oh, I'm going to.
And I haven't been 50,000, but I've been at the River Sage with all the people. And sometimes when they had it out, sometimes they played it first, which just blew my mind. I was like, why would you play this first? But when they were better, they played it last. And it's just the perfect, you can't do anything else after that. It's just done.
okay.
That's
So
awesome.
good. And
Okay, so when they come again, you call me.
And it has the best
I'll
film
go.
clip of all time as well.
The best what?
Film clip, music video, one of the best music videos of all time. And if you haven't seen that, check it
All
out.
time.
Just pop it in the group chat.
I will.
Yeah,
Yep.
pop that in. Okay.
Nice. Okay, so
But
should we
we're not here to talk about that. George.
let's talk about the
Carry
album.
on, George. Please.
Hello, let's go into the album, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Wow.
we previously had a Patreon special where we talked about best opening songs to an album, and Liam brought the opening track to the second Muse album, and I did a kind of nudge, wink, wink. Maybe it should have been the first, because for me, Sunburn was the pluckiest, ballsiest kind of like opening to an album by going like, we're not even playing guitars right now.
Yeah. Sure.
And the bass line is so sexy.
Yeah.
Like, it's rolling, it's sexy, it just fills up this beautiful like space where the piano is playing, and then the drums are almost like that trip hop kind of sound to them. So that's just beautiful. And then he starts wailing the lyrics. Have to enjoy that kind of thing, don't you? No, he doesn't underplay his lyrics.
No,
No.
it's all out there. So there's the 3 guys. So it's Matthew Bellamy on the vocals and the guitar, Chris and piano and stuff, Christopher Wolstenholme on bass, and Dominic Howard on drums. And they're all like genius level. I would put them at genius level at all 3 of the things that they do. Like Dominic's drums is like, right from that opening song, it's like you could hear the bits that he could easily go, I'm just going to hit the 4th beat, or I'm just going to do a standard 4/4 time. But instead he throws in lots of extra little things, like just a little staccato stuff, which is just really cool. And then, Chris on the bass. So during the chorus, the guitar is playing the rhythm and the bass is actually doing the melody. And then that comes up again multiple times throughout the album. Is like the guitar is wailing and it's loud and it's huge, but if you listen to it carefully, the bass is actually doing the melody, and sometimes Matt's even singing along to what the bass is doing, and then playing the guitar as a rhythm sort of thing. It's just so good.
That's good.
Yeah, it's controversial and it sounds beautiful. But did you know that when so Matt and Dominic were together and they asked Chris to join the band, so he went and got bass lessons. So he actually wasn't a bassist. They just asked him to just start a band. So they're from a place called Tyneworth, which is the arse end of nowhere where nothing happens. And there's an entire song about it. But yeah, they just wanted him to be in the band with him, and so he just went, I'll play the bass then, and he went off to get bass. So it wasn't like they all came together like as competent musicians. They just
He made
got
himself.
on, and they've been together since 96 or something.
Yep.
And they're still together now with the same lineup, which is always a good sign. I think like they're not tired of each other and they're still bringing stuff out. So
How recently did you see them? Were they on tour?
So their last few albums I've not been that interested in because they've gone away from the big pomp. Well, actually, they've gone more towards the synth sort of big pomp stuff and less towards the guitar-driven stuff. So the last couple times they've played the Entertainment Centre and I've just been like, well, I don't like your last couple of albums. You'll probably favour those pretty heavily. And I don't like seeing you at the Entertainment Centre that much either. So the last couple of times I haven't. So I haven't seen them for quite a few years.
Do you know why track 2 Muscle Museum is called Muscle Museum?
No, please tell me.
It is. Do you know, Liam?
I thought I knew, but I don't remember right now. So
it is because they are next to Muse in the dictionary. So Muscle, Muse,
I did not
Museum.
know that.
So
Right.
they chose Muscle Museum as just because they're next to each other. But how's that for an intro of the boom boom boom?
Yeah,
boom.
and there's that bass, like it's just
Sounds like Arabian Nights or something when it comes in. So
and it's interesting because it's almost not quite as like really super heavy guitar driven and fast guitar driven as some of the other songs. Like it's a bit slower than some of the other stuff, which is why like now when I think back about it, I was like, it's not even necessarily one of my favorite songs on the album Muscle Museum because it's not as big and fast and big chunky guitar stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, it hooked me enough to make me want to listen to the album.
do you want to know something else upsetting? He was 18 when he wrote it.
Wow.
Like, that just hurts, though, because it's really good. And he was 18 years old and just went, I'm just going to write
And he's
Muscle Museum.
given his band a name, and he's going to go Muscle, Muse, and Museum.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Just
Like-
Muse as the name and just went, Muscle Museum because it's next to
Either
each
way,
other.
yeah.
Why not?
Well-
But, like, this is awesome because it's
Okay,
about
good story.
leaving someone, like, toxic behind as he's about to break into the music industry. Like, the context for it with that huge chorus. And so many layers, but you can hear every instrument perfectly. Like, it's mastered and
It's always that way.
really well. But so they had John Leckie, who's done Radiohead, Stone Roses, etc., on production and mixing, and also Paul Reeve, who works with John quite a lot, who used to work with Steve Harley, Supergrass. But then the band themselves are also down as production and mixing for certain tracks. So they, it was like a collaboration, I think.
Very
So
very
they know
hands-on stuff.
They know what they want to sound like, and they worked with the right people, and they did it. So it's that, and that's got that awesome lyric, where he is passionate as hell. Like just that kind of toxicity of like, no, like I'm not just at your bidding. I need something more. So which is awesome and cool beans. So we'll not go track to track because we'll go for
No.
We'll be here all night.
we'll be here
We
all
don't have
night. So Grant, because you were listening to the album for the first time, were there particular things you wanted to talk about?
Oh, look, I suppose that obviously the opening few tracks are just freaking unreal. And you're like, this is not normal. This is not your average Stradivari 180, rock and roll. As we've discussed, an opening piano, like flipping, there you go. This is going to be different. Classic of, and it should have been a single, unintended, of course. Like, you can't, what a slower track. It's all really...
Unintended was a single.
Yeah.
That was
correct. It should have been their last single. Yeah. And it should have been, absolutely. And I'm like, geez,
It's
why hasn't
really
it come
nice.
out now?
And it's that I love the fact that it is, as you say, like it's that love song. But it's about like saying, I'm not ready for you right now, but please don't go anywhere. But I need you to know that I wasn't intending on this happening. But and he says like, I'll be there as soon as I can, but I'm busy mending broken pieces of my life I had before you. Aww.
And it's perfectly placed as a breather.
Yeah.
Because it's after Showbiz, so you need you need something after Showbiz that's like a little different because that's just like this big mammoth epic thing. But then right before Uno, which in its own ways is also big epic.
It's
so
also
you need something in between to just gonna calm it and take a breath. And it's kind of a nice song, but also he can't sing happy songs. His voice doesn't work that way. So it's a nice song and it's gentle and it's loving, but it's also that desperation and the pleading and the melancholy in his voice which is there all the time.
Yes.
That's the way his vocals work.
It's just the way his vocals work,
Yeah, I'd love to, and because I said I'd like to hear him sing a pop song, but he's played like there's there's covers and stuff that they do
Yes.
that are nice pop songs, but he just turns them into these heart-rending, breaking things. Because he can't just sing. Yeah, he can't just sing straightforward pop songs.
No, good. Good, because otherwise the album would have sucked.
It would have.
Yeah,
yes.
well, correct.
That's awesome. I think Unintended was. It's also. It feels like he wasn't. There's also that I wasn't intending on having a song that sounds like this on the album, but I'm putting it on here, and it does work. It does, as you say, like you've got the bookends of epic tracks, and then you need a reprieve, and that works really well. Even though it's a contrast, it works really nicely as that segue through. So it's good.
And this was not this is a long album, 50 plus minutes. So was it 53?
Is it
49?
Was it?
Yeah, because you haven't got Spiral Static on the end there.
I've got to take that off at the end.
Gotta take that off the end,
Correct. Sure.
Oh yeah, sorry.
You're
We're
right.
doing the version without Spiral Static.
Yes, because
No bonus tracks
That
here.
was a Japan version. I think that was a Japan only release, or it was a Japanese version or something.
And it
had
doesn't
Spiral
exist.
Static on
It
the end.
didn't exist on my CD, and
Nope,
this is my
wasn't on
my
mine.
episode.
This is your episode, George. This is yours.
It's my episode for mine. Yes. So what was the one that you was going to say?
And then Hate This and I Love You. I mean, what a nice way to close. Jeez,
Yes.
Stop it.
Broody. I think it's he plays the Wurlitzer. You know that sound, that kind of beautiful, like piano, weird piano-y sound, and it's almost like a PJ Harvey song to begin with as well. It's got that kind of.
We don't mind PJ, do we? Not in this group.
No, PJ Harvey
We
fans.
don't mind PJ.
We are a fan, and just his vocals range through, and his the bridge is like this power trip, the full band, and when he comes in with "You Led Me On," it's so high pitched. Which is awesome. But then there's slidey sounds and lots of hi-hats, and it's this nice like fuck you kind of thing at the end of the album of all those haters and all those people. So
but also with all like the little cicada noises and stuff in there, so it's something different for the rest of the album. It's like we're not afraid. So they hadn't really done a lot of studio, like they played with the instrument parts, but they hadn't done necessarily a lot of other tricks or a lot of other things in there. Yeah, but it was nice. They just had a little soft moment on the very end, a little tinkling piano to finish.
Yeah, which is a nice
tinkling piano.
Because the song starts with the tinkly piano,
Yes.
and then it ends with the tinkly piano, and you're like, this is the end of the album.
Yeah,
That's really
it's
nice.
definitely the end.
And this one is the with the lyrics.
You're making me feel like I was born to service you, but I am growing by the hour.
Like, nice. Like that's much better than a fuck you, isn't it? That's like so much better. Like, you made me feel this way, but I've actually grown, so I don't need that anymore, which is really nice. So, Liam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tracks you want to talk about?
So I want to talk about all of them, but we can't go past the title song, Showbiz. We've already talked about it a little bit at the start, but just the slow burn in, just the drums, just that marching beat, like Dom just sort of going, look at this thing that I can do. Sure, I can play fast and throw more notes in there, but we can go super soft and I can just slowly bring them in, because they almost tail into the back end of Cave as well. And then it's just that slow burn that builds up. And Matt, whereas normally Matt's quite verbose and saying a lot of lyrics, this one is quite slow and almost hypnotic. Like he's just saying the same phrases over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's like controlling my feelings for too long, it's just that he repeats the phrases 3 or 4 times instead of just like racing through the lines. So, and then of course when it kicks up into the big proper, everyone's just like smashing on stuff and there's guitar and it's just wailing. It's awesome.
And there's loads of oohs in there too as well. Like just on top of it, like where, as you talk about the like lyrically, it's really pared back, but then there's just lots of still like vocal sounds that are happening, like when the full band comes in, which is really nice. And it's
epic.
Talking about having.
Well, it's the longest song on the album which is almost just the intro, because it outros on the beat, the drums as well. So if you sliced off the drum like fade in and fade out, it would probably just be a normal length song, but they just use that slow build too.
But the pounding drums at the beginning,
so good.
You can't get away from
No,
that.
that'd be awesome.
But it's again, it's about having an internal versus an external kind of personality, like that you have to like live by, and it just So for me, it's like the modern day version of The Stranger by Billy Joel when he talked about having that faith. Like, have to bring it back to Billy Joel somehow. But yeah,
just about.
so it is. It's that kind of, like controlling his feelings and forcing his darkest souls to unfold, etc.
There's another little trick he does in here that he does a few times in the album where he hits like not singing lyrics but just singing the notes, and then he fades his vocal into the guitar part, which is just so cool. And like sometimes you think for a lot of people you'd be like, oh yeah, you just did something in the studio to make that happen, but he's got the vocal chops and the guitar chops to have figured out a way to hit a note, hold the note, and then bring the guitar to the same note, and then just let the guitar take over the things.
Nice.
And
Yes.
he has done a few times as well, seeing them play live, the thing where you sing into the bridge of the guitar, and because you're singing and the vibrating comes out, it actually comes out the guitar part, which is really cool.
That's really fun.
Yeah. So it's he
Okay.
he thinks of his voice as the instrument, like it's not just here's me singing. It's like I'm doing a thing with my voice and a thing with my guitar, and here's the bit where I'm going to bring them in together, which is really awesome.
He's just very smart with that, and I think like not in the bad way, but calculated. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I think the whole album's very measured.
Yeah, measured, calculated, deliberate.
Yes.
And even the parts where it feels like they're going out of control. It's everything's perfectly placed.
Controlled, which is just such a cool, like there are certain bands who can do that, like make it feel like they're about to lose control, but when you think about it and you witness it, and sometimes you see it live, it's like no, you're in complete control. You know exactly what's happening here. Nothing's going crazy here.
Absolutely. Yeah, they know what they're doing.
It's probably a good description. You're in contrast to how you would perceive Radiohead, who I've never seen live either, but in terms of their control relative to what these guys are, it's quite a different feel.
So you don't feel like people just go, okay, we've got 30 seconds just to make as much noise as we want on our instruments, and then we'll come back together. It's like, no, I'm going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that, and then we're going to come together, but it's going to sound like this soundscape of noisy, messy stuff, and then we bring it back to the perfection. And so it works really beautifully there. Do you have another one, Liam?
I also love Cave. I've always loved Cave. Just sort of that whining electronic digital sounds right before the riff, and there's the cool interplay between the drums and the guitar, and then sometimes it just cuts straight back to like the drums and the bass and just the different parts. And then where he sings, "So come in my cave and I'll burn your hearts away." And then he repeats that line a couple of times, and then it's each time he sings it with a slightly more like it sounds like a threat, like come in and I'll damage you, but it's almost like as it goes on, it's more and more pleading of like, so he's just got that different intonation each time he sings it, which is really awesome.
With so much vibrato in his voice when he's singing as well, which is really nice. And he can do the vibrato in the lower and the higher register, which is really nice. It's good to listen to. Don't just look at me like that. Just
He can do this.
noise. But that was really cool because I was reading about like the meanings behind the songs and stuff as well. And he was in an interview and he described it as he had read some of the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And they said that when men are stressed out, they retreat to their caves. But he said that when he's stressed out, he lets it all out, like either creatively or that one time in a hotel room, but I fixed the toilet, so it's okay. And so so you talk about bands going on tour and they thrash the hotel rooms. So he's thrashed out, but then he's like, oh, I fixed it up though. So that's nice.
That's okay.
So a good English boy, like bringing it in. So so I can see why they brought in Cave as a second, like because Cave is got that different sound to Uno. So they brought out Uno and then they brought out Cave to go range.
Got a bit of stuff.
And then to bring out Unintended at the end, you're like, now we're just pushing the limits of what we can
then
release as a single.
Muscle Museum is that softer one that I talk about, like not soft, but still up there. And then Sunburn, I guess, is your Don't Forget I Can Play Piano. Yeah. Because those other three songs, the piano.
And what a brave
opening.
What a brave opening. Like track one.
And like we talked about before, assured for a debut album. Like there's so many people
So they weren't in a band before. Like I didn't look for that, but specifically they weren't.
No, they were like...
They were all 17 and 18.
They were like 18
when they were
at the time. They were bringing this out. I think they were 19 approximately when this came out. They looked like babies when I was
like they're not. They need to shave like twice a week even. Like barely shaving.
Yeah, exactly. And they were like all skinny and awkward.
Well, that will probably have changed. Unlike Liam and I. Oh, no, solid.
Yeah. So that was really awesome.
Great.
Also, all the video. So I've seen the video for Uno and Muscle Museum and Sunburn. All three of them feature the band playing in full, like the three, like not just I'm one part over here or one part like the three, like so, which felt to me like listen to this. You'll think that no one can really do this or play this, like it's all going to be studio trickery. No. Here's our three guys. We just stand here and we just do this thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's
that's always cool. Man.
Yeah, and like because Muscle Museum is just like it's like a suburban perfect life, but everybody's crying.
Yeah,
and then these guys are just in a pub out the back with balloons everywhere, just playing, and it looks like they're just a pub band. Like there's just three guys on a stage within a pub with nobody there.
Yeah,
but you're listening to it and you're thinking like, there's no pub bands that play like this.
No,
or if ever. You don't last long as a pub band if you can play like that.
Yeah, I was going to say they were a pub band and then they became, but they still had to bring out multiple EPs before they got signed.
Yeah. They went through the usual process of
rigmarole.
Yeah,
so
releasing small stuff and played a bit of live. I'm sure they did heaps of like little touring in pubs and clubs locally before they.
In the UK, it was released on Mushroom Records, who had bands like Garbage, Ash, and Kylie Minogue.
Nice.
But then in the US, it was Maverick, which is founded by Madonna, which had people like Alanis Morissette, but then also Deftones and Marilyn Manson, and then Muse.
Yeah.
So Maverick have range as well. So yeah, they're because they don't quite fit into any of those things.
No,
but yeah, can I mention Escape, please?
Yep.
Because that tricks you into thinking it's going to be really nice. Because it sounds soft and dreamy when it starts, and then you're like, oh, this has gotten dark pretty quickly.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's harmonies in there, which is really nice, and it does trick you, but it's like this breakup of and his lyrics of
Why can't you just love? Why be such a monster?
Lyric Buddies.
Have you
I
written
got
the
that
same?
one down too. Yeah.
Lyric Buddies.
Lyric Buddies.
There you go.
It's a bell. The song's like a bell curve. It's super soft to start, and then it explodes. But not in the same way that Showbiz does. Like not in a slow burn. You always know it's going to explode. This one's just like it's soft. And if you're hearing the song for the first time, you think, oh yeah, it's just going to be a soft song. And then the riffs just crunch into the space, and it's just so good. And they do that a lot on their later albums as well.
And there's some offbeat drumming
really
in
good
there
at it.
too.
Yeah.
That, like, just one little moment of like offbeat drumming, and you're like, oh, where did you come from? Like, hello.
Yeah.
And like, it was just a really nice way of doing it. Like in this drumming solo, it's really special.
And how many albums do you have?
Of theirs?
Yes.
So they have 8, and I have 7 of them. I don't have the latest one, Simulation Theory, but I have all the other ones.
Wow. There you go.
Because even the ones I turned out I didn't like, I bought them sight unseen. So Origin of Symmetry and Absolution are awesome. Black Hole and Revelations is awesome. The Resistance and the Second Law I don't like so much, but I bought them sight unseen because like, hey, Muse is putting out an album.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, they were like, if you asked me who my top 3 bands were, they were in there.
Wow.
Yeah. I was obsessed. This was
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should dance. I'm ready.
Yeah.
We're going to vote now, or what's the story? I'm intrigued.
So we've got 49 minutes, 12 tracks, debut album, like full length album from Muse,
Teenagers, remind you.
Teenagers who came out with something that just made the statement of we're ready for a bigger stage now. Like it just underlined where they were going, and I think they knew it, but not in a real cocky way. They just were like, nah, we're ready to move on. And I think this has such a range of like emotion, of introverted lyrics versus like extroverted lyrics, and the competency of all of the musicians on this is unreal. And when I found out that they were only a few years older than me when I saw them live, I felt sick.
Wow.
Thinking about my own guitar playing, I felt sick. So yes, and this album has been one of my go-to albums for a long time, and Sunburn is still one of my favorite songs of all time. Like
Nice.
because I'm a sucker for piano rock, right?
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is definitely George's album. Oh, listen
Yeah.
to this.
I'm a
Listen how
sucker
it
for
opens.
piano rock, but I'm also
Unapologetically as well.
but I'm also a sucker for somebody wailing and having really incredible like content to it, and none of it's like denigrating another person as such. It's a lot of it's really introspective, and I found that like refreshing too, and some of it's more cryptic, so there's so much in there that to unpack, and we don't have time to unpack it
We can
or
go
even
all
go
night.
to all the songs.
Yeah.
But there is not a song on here that when I listened to this album since the 4th of October when I bought it in 1999. Since then, I have never skipped.
4th of October.
That was when it came out.
Oh, sorry.
That's when I
But
bought it.
You bought it. All right.
I bought it
on the day.
On the day. I do that when I like a thing. So I bought it on the day, and basically I've picked out certain tracks to go on playlists before. Like if I've got like romantic playlists, I'll put Unintended in, obviously. Then if I want like to have some like power, I'll put on different tracks and stuff with like Cave if I want to go running. So they've got something for all of my emotional spectrum, which is awesome. And I just don't think that there's anything that you could find fault in this album as a debut. So I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts, because the more I've listened to it, the more and more flawless I found it.
More flawless.
Nice.
Yeah.
More
this deep
flawless.
dive.
We have a new level. We have not flawless, flawless, and more flawless.
Yeah,
I like
it's
it.
become
Flawlessness.
I had it on my list of flawless albums. So when we said let's bring It's Your Turn, I was like, oh, I'm going to put Muse on, because I've known for like, I don't know, 2 years that I was going to bring this album.
How long has Flawless been going for?
3
3
years.
years today.
We'll be past 3 years by the time this comes out.
There you go. So
there it is, eh?
So I've known for a few years that I was going to bring this album out, and then when I just threw down the hammer and went, here we are, and I got into my deep dive, I was like, shit, this is even better.
Then you remembered.
It's even better than I remember. It's even better than just having it on in the background, really getting into a deep dive. That was just where I am. So,
Awesome.
Yes. So I'll hand over the gauntlet of truth, because Liam's been talking this up, but I'm also very aware. I'm very aware that he may go, but the second album, or but
I would, yeah.
whatever, etc. So I'm very interested to know, as somebody that was a Muse hoarder,
Yep.
how was it for you to do a deep dive on this album?
And do you
find it flawless?
Yes. Good question. So I'd heard this album heaps of times, but I hadn't listened to it in a while, because I don't go back and do listen to like a lot of old records. I spend most of my time listening to the albums we've got nominated for Flawless, and then I try to keep up with stuff that's still coming out, and I have to keep up with something for Kate. So outside of that,
Oh my god, we hadn't mentioned something for Kate yet.
I mentioned them at the start because
You did, because
Dempsey
you
was
talked
giving
about
the dog's
Dempsey.
name.
And then he says top 3 bands, and now I know 2 of the 3. So like, I know what the one is.
my other one. Oh, so you know
Third.
who's the other one?
No, your third. Well, something to Kate
Yeah.
would be one, plus the Muse, and then I don't know the third. So
Gomez.
Gomez, you
Who
remember?
we've talked about before.
okay, yes.
Okay. So I listened to his album heaps of times. I was like that dude. I was like, I'm gonna have to have a listen back to it. I remember loving it. I remember why I loved it. And then listening through to it, I remembered, hey, I love this album, and I remembered why I loved it. Just I don't understand how you get 3 people who are so brilliant at their instruments, who just happen to have come together. And like you said, George, the Chris didn't even start. Like, it's not like he was a great bass player. It's almost like if you were at some kind of institute of awesome musicians, and the institute was like, okay, the 3 of you are like our 3 best at the individual parts. Go and be a band together. Except that they're not like that. They're just friends who happen to be, like, I would say, genius level. And I don't think Matt Bellamy gets enough credit for being like one of the best guitar players of his generation. And I'm not even in a position where I can really judge that very well, but it feels like he doesn't get enough credit. And then he sings on top of that, and it's just so it's crazy good. One thing I did remember when I was listening to it before is I didn't love Hate This and I'll Love You. And I think that was usually because it is Escape and Overdue come before it, and they're really fast and short and sharp. and then Hate This and I Love You starts really slow, and you've got to sort of wait for it to pick up. And so from memory, I would always go, okay, I'm skipping to Sunburn. Sunburn's there. I'm going to jump ahead to Sunburn now because I can start again. So that was my one trepidation. But as I listened to this, trying to think, oh, is this flawless? I fell in love with Hate This and I Love You. In a way that I hadn't before. I was like, okay, this is actually crazy good. And
so you've grown, bud.
I have. That's the thing. Is like back then I was like, oh, it doesn't really fit with the other two songs. But now I'm like, no, it's the same emotional spot and it's the same awesome guitar playing. And that was the last box I needed to tick. So I would absolutely call this flawless, and I am.
Cool.
Wowzers.
Thank you, Liam.
Not a problem. It was actually a super easy decision because once I was listening to the Hate This and I Love You, I'm like, well, I'm on board this song now. That's it. That was the last possible reason I could say no to. And it was just like, no, I mean, this is great. I would have nominated it myself. I would have nominated their second album, and I think I can make an argument for their third as well. But yeah, that's not to say this one isn't flawless, because it is, and an amazing debut.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Liam. Now, Grant, now I'm handing it over to you. I'm knighting you with the sword of flawless. And I'm asking you to give me feedback on what is a very difficult decision, potentially.
Is it?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel.
And Liam and you and Muse and where's Grant been for 23 years? Far out. Yeah, look, it's an incredible album, and I think for mine, you've spoken to, and we've discussed the musicianship and genius. I don't actually think that's far off. Like 3 oaks in their teens, and from a skill set perspective, I normally do, for the listeners who haven't heard this story before, flawless, multiple ticks of this is 1, 2, all the rest of it. I didn't end up doing any ticks at all because I just loved the whole thing. So I was like, I don't need to do ticks on this, and it was it'd be an exception basis where I put an X, like that's gone. But no, it is. I concur. I will acknowledge another victory if we were competitive to George for nominating an awesome album. Thank you. I do believe it's flawless, and I'm certainly richer for hearing it, and it's just great. It's a really, really cool album, and I suppose I could easily go back and listen to this unprompted. I feel it's probably pretty timeless as well, because you put it on and it captivates you, I think. So thank you for nominating it. I believe it's flawless.
Oh,
well
my
done,
goodness,
George.
we did it.
Yeah.
We did it. We got it over the line.
Well, we did.
You two did.
Wow.
Jeez.
Christ. Whoa.
That
was terrifying. So another English flawless from George.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. But there are a lot of people there making a lot of music.
At a certain point, I'm just going to stop asking you to nominate albums. It'll just be you and me.
Yeah,
right? So
I know.
we get some more across, we'll catch up.
I'm like,
But just accept, just power through it. Like we've listened to a lot of
great
music
stories, by the way, from both of you. That was really cool.
This is fun. This has been a fun episode.
It has.
Oh, so thank you to my two co-hosts. You have been excellent. And also, importantly, thank you to everyone for listening to Flawless, the podcast. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are Flawless AMP on all of those. So you can join the conversation, share or like our posts, give us a rating if people still do that sort of thing. Everything helps to find more music lovers like you. As mentioned, we now have a Patreon at patreon.com/flawlessamp. If you'd like to back us, please check that out. I think that's in the show notes too. So thanks again for listening. We got a flawless this time, and you can hear us again next time.